All right, everybody, let's get into this one. So we're building again. We went from one-step equations to two-step equations. Now we're getting into more complicated equations, multi-step equations. We're going to look at two specific types today. We're going to look at equations that have a variable on both sides of the equal sign, and we're going to look at equations that have parentheses where we have to use the distributive property. Multi-step, meaning it could be more than two steps than what we saw before. But we'll break it down and we should all be okay. Learning objective for the day, I can solve complex equations and equations with variables on both sides. Let's get into it. 4 examples today. Here's our first one. It says solve 8 plus 4d equals 5d, and then check your solution. So first I rewrote the equation. Now a little backstory. When we're looking at equations and they have variables on both sides, the first thing that I like to do is I try to get the variable only on one side. I do so by either subtracting or adding the terms that have the variable to move it to the other side. Now me, I'm try to be more of a positive guy, so I try to keep my variables positive. To do so, I always move the smaller of the two variables. So you'll notice this one, we have a 4d and a 5d. That 4d is smaller, so I'm going to move him to the other side. And we actually move the same way we would in our other equations by canceling them out, by working with the inverses. So I'm going to do the opposite of plus 4d. I'm going to subtract that 4d on both sides. When I do, it cancels it out here on the left, and then I get 5d minus 4d on the right. 5 minus 4 gets me 1d. 8's the only thing left over there. Oh, wow, this one's too nice. Look, we're already done. Variables all alone. Just our answer, our constant term on the other side. This turned out to be a one-step equation. A little more complicated because of the variables, but only one thing to do. Check your solution. So we're going to plug it back in. We're going to take this answer of ours and plug it in for the variable whenever we see it. This is a crucial Algebra 1 skill, being able to substitute, being able to plug in values for your variables. So we're going to practice it today, and hopefully we get a lot better with it later on. But I'm taking that value, plugging it in for whenever I see d. So in my original equation, I had a d with the 4, and I had a d with the 5. Since they're right next to each other, that means multiplication. So I'm going to multiply the 4 times our answer and the 5 times our answer. All I did was just drop that 8 in for that variable. Let's simplify here a little bit. Let's multiply this out. 4 times 8 gets me 32. 5 times 8 gets me 40. 8 plus 32 gets me 40. So I have 40 is equal to 40. There's example 1. Let's move on to our next one, example number 2. A little more complicated this time, but notice we have, again, variables on both sides of our equation. 6n minus 1 equals 4n minus 5. Just like what we talked about before. I'm trying to keep my variables positive because I'm more of a positive guy. I just like working with positive numbers better. So I'm looking for the smaller of the two coefficients. 4 is smaller again. So I'm going to move that 4n to the other side. I do so by working with the inverse. Since it's positive 4n, I'm going to get rid of it by subtracting 4n on both sides. 4n cancels over here. 6n minus 4n gets me 2n. From here, it's just like our two-step equations we were dealing with before. 2n minus 1 equals negative 5. Think of our order of operations. Start from the bottom, work our way up. So minus 1, we want to get rid of. Doing the opposite, add 1 on both sides. Careful here with the negative 5 plus 1. That actually becomes negative 4. 2n drops down, so now I have 2n is equal to negative 4. Get rid of that 2, which is being multiplied right now by doing the opposite. divide both sides by that 2. I get n equals -2. So there's our answer. Let's check that solution. Again, same way, we're going to plug it in. So whenever I see n in my original problem, I plug in my answer. It was 6n minus 1 equals 4n minus 5. So plug it in. 6 times -2 gets me -12. 4 times -2 gets me -8. So I have -2 minus 1. I have -8 minus 5. Combine those together. Gets me the same answer on both sides, -13. So we're 2 for 2. This turned out to be 3 steps. Move the variable, step 1. Add the 1, step 2. Divide by 2, step 3. So you can see this becomes a little more complex. Halfway there, let's look at example 3. Getting into some of our parentheses, getting into some of our distributive property questions, you have 15 times 20 plus d is equal to 420. So we have our equation. Whenever you see these parentheses and a number on the outside, I want you to think of what's called the distributive property. It's called that because you distribute this number on the outside to everything on the inside. Remember, in algebra, you don't have to write multiplication. So if you have a number next to a variable without any operation, right away you know it's multiplication. Same thing with parentheses. If you have a number next to your parentheses, no operation, you know right away it's multiplication. So we're going to distribute this 15 to everything inside by doing its operation by multiplying. So I have 15 times 20 and then 15 times 1d. So I have 300 plus 15d. From here, two-step equation. Get rid of this positive 300 by subtracting. So I could simplify here. The 300s go away on that left side. I'm left with only 15d. 420 minus 300 gets me 120. Now 15d is being multiplied, so get rid of multiply by dividing. Divide both sides by that 15. D is equal to 8. Check our solution. Oh no, didn't have to check our solution that time. So let me go back. There's example number 3. So really the only difference from what we see here is that whenever we see parentheses and just a number out there, no operation, multiply. Multiply to everything inside. This time we only had 2 things inside. But I'll tell you right now, in Algebra 1, we're going to see problems where there's more stuff on the inside, more terms inside parentheses. No big deal. You just multiply it by everything from that number on the outside. Let's do one more example. This time I got -8. Parentheses w minus 6 equals 32. Remember, parentheses is just multiply. So we're going to multiply, we're going to distribute that -8 to everything inside. -8 times w, just -8w. -8 times -6. Negative times negative makes positive, so we get positive 48. Two-step equation at this point. Get rid of our addition or subtraction first. So I see plus 48. Let's get rid of that by subtracting that 48 to both sides. 32 minus 48 is going to get us a negative number. It gets us -16. Last but not least, get rid of that -8 with the w by doing the opposite. Since it's right next to the variable, it's being multiplied. So get rid of it by dividing. -16 divided by -8, positive 2. There's example number 4. So, quick summary. We had variables on both sides. Took a couple extra steps sometimes, but we were able to answer the problem. We had variables with parentheses or equations with parentheses. We took that distributive property step, then a couple more steps that we've seen before, and we could solve those equations, hopefully without any problems. Alrighty, guys. Email me if you have any questions about it. And then I guess I'll just hear from you later. Bye.